Valley of the Kings. They said the desert was empty, but Carter knew it was only silent because it was listening. By 1922, Howard Carter was a tired man. His hands were cracked, his eyes hollow from sand and sleepless nights. For 5 years, he had been searching the Valley of the Kings, with Lord Carnarvon's dwindling money and even faster dwindling patience. The heat was unforgiving. His workers whispered that the sands were cursed, that the valley did not want to be disturbed. Bones of abandoned camps lay half-buried where other expeditions had failed. Carter walked among them every dawn, fighting the gnawing doubt that he would be next. One evening, as lanterns flickered in the windless dark, an old Egyptian man in white robes came to the camp. He did not speak at first. His eyes were pale and clouded like moonlit stone. He smelt faintly of myrrh and something else, something rotten. "You search for the boy king," he said, his voice like dry reeds. "Turn back." Carter frowned. "Who are you?" "A priest of the House of Life, keeper of the gates of the dead," the man said. "I walk where the living do not. What sleeps beneath the sand is not meant to wake." Carter asked how he knew his name, how he knew his mission, but the man only said, "All you will find here is death. Yours, his, and theirs." When Carter looked away, only for a heartbeat, the man was gone. No footprints in the sand. He said nothing to Carnarvon. The next morning, the foreman found a worker dead inside his tent, eyes open, mouth stretched as though screaming. The sand around his body was marked with small jackal tracks, though no animal had passed through the camp. Days bled into weeks. Money was running out. Carnarvon talked of returning to England. Carter fought panic. He had mapped every tomb, every known burial, except one. A small, undisturbed patch of earth, near where the ruined huts of ancient tomb builders once stood. He ordered his men to dig. By late afternoon, the tip of a worn stone step emerged from the sand. Carter dropped to his knees and brushed away the dust with shaking hands. Beneath it lay another step, and another. That night, the boy who carried water to the workers vanished. His footprints led to the entrance of the steps and simply stopped. They found his water jar cracked in the sand. Beside it, pressed deep into the soil, was a blackened feather, scorched at the edges, soft as ash. Carter did not sleep. At dawn, the full staircase was cleared. It descended into darkness. A sealed doorway blocked the bottom, stamped with the royal cartouche of Tutankhamun, a name the desert had held in silence for over 3,000 years. Carter's heart pounded as he held a chisel to the plaster seal. Behind him, Carnarvon asked, "Can you see anything?" He made a hole, held up a candle. Gold, lions' heads, carved beds, statues glaring through centuries of dust. "Yes," he whispered, "wonderful things." But his voice trembled, because behind the treasures in the gloom, he thought, just for a second, he saw someone standing, tall, still, watching. He told no one. Within weeks, Lord Carnarvon was dead. A mosquito bite on his cheek became infected. At the exact moment, he died in Cairo. The lights in the city flickered out. Back at his home in England, his favorite dog howled once and collapsed, lifeless. The newspapers spoke of the curse of the pharaoh. Carter dismissed it. But some nights he awoke gasping, convinced someone was standing at the foot of his bed. Inside the tomb, lamps sputtered without wind. Sleeping workers felt hands touching their faces in the dark. Shadows moved along the painted walls. A faint scent of incense and rotting lilies lingered in places where no one had stepped. Harry Burton, the photographer, developed his glass plates late one night. He called for Carter, pale as plaster. In the photographs of the burial chamber, behind Carter and Carnarvon, a shadow stood, a figure in black and gold, tall, with the jackal head of Anubis. In every image it was closer. Burton burned the plates, muttering prayers in a shaking voice. He died the next week of a sudden fever. The last words he said were, "It stands at the end of my bed." And more men died. Some disappeared. One was found at the bottom of a shaft, neck broken, fingers worn to bone as though he'd clawed at stone trying to escape something in the dark. Carter began to believe his eyes were playing tricks, but then he dreamt of the old priest again, the one with pale eyes. Except this time, the priest's skin was grey and pulled tight over his skull, his lips gone, his teeth exposed like broken tombstone. In the dream, the priest leaned close and whispered, "The king is not alone. He was buried with one who guards him still. You have woken it." Carter woke with blood on his sheets, from his own nose, bleeding in his sleep. One evening inside the burial chamber, Carter found something new. At the base of Tutankhamun's sarcophagus, carved lightly in the dust as though by a finger, was a fresh hieroglyph. He traced it with his lantern. It was the sign for sacrifice. Behind him, stone scraped on stone. He turned. The ebony statue of Anubis, guardian of the necropolis, had always faced the sarcophagus. Now it faced him. He froze. The air was suddenly cold and tasted of old blood. Something moved behind the statue, slow, dragging footsteps. The torch guttered. A tall, robed figure stepped from the shadows, skin like dried parchment, eyes like black pools. Gold jewelry hung from its skeletal neck. The high priest. But he was no longer living. Sand trickled from between his teeth as he spoke. "Last warning, seeker of tombs. Leave this place, or join the ones you have woken." Carter could not move. He could only whisper, "What are you?" The priest raised a hand, bones creaking beneath ancient flesh. "I am what waits when the heart stops. I walked with kings. I buried gods. I guard the gates of the western lands. And you break them open." A wind rose from nowhere, cold and roaring. The torch died. In the darkness, Carter heard screams, hundreds of voices, buried alive under 20 centuries of sand, begging, clawing, and under it all, footsteps approaching softly across the stone. He ran. The curse did not end that night, but Carter never again set foot in the tomb. He finished his catalogues, smiled for journalists, laughed at ghost stories, but in private, he locked every door, slept with candles burning, and some nights he would wake and see pale eyes watching from the corner of his room and smell crushed lilies and decay. Howard Carter died in 1939, officially of natural causes, but in his journal, found hidden beneath his desk drawer, the last line was written in shaking ink, scattered with grains of sand. "The priest still walks. I hear him in the hallway at night. The king does not rest, and the desert does not forget." The end.